Mexican economy depends a lot on oil. For example, Mexico exports of oil account for a large proportion of its revenue generated from exports. Moreover, more than a third of the government budget depends on revenue from oil. It has come down from about 80% of the government revenue 20 years ago to about 30-35%. Nevertheless, it's still very important. So oil is very important for Mexico. On the other hand, oil exports from Mexico has a counterweight on the country to which Mexico exports most of its stuff, to the US. In fact, 80% of Mexican export goes to the US. So if for some reason oil price rises, it means two things. One, more revenue from oil export, and on the other hand, less export in total if the rise in oil price affects the US market negatively. And this is what we saw, for example, in the crisis of 2009. The big crisis in the US actually led to an even bigger drop in GDP in Mexico. Mexico's GDP fell in 2009 by 6.1%, which is huge, considering the crisis was actually not caused for Mexican domestic reasons. So what's happening with the current oil prices? Some analysts, such as the Nomura Securities, have asserted that oil price, which is hovering around $100 a barrel right now, could go up to $200 a barrel. Is that a possibility? Well, if we check at the futures market, it doesn't seem that way. No matter what is happening in the Middle East, the oil price futures are hovering around $100 mark. If we look up 1 year ahead, it's $100. If we look out 2 years ahead, it's $100. If we look out 5 years ahead, it's less than $100. So clearly the market thinks that whatever has happened in the Middle East, or whatever is happening in the Middle East, is going to die down within a year. And this will not have a long-term impact on oil prices. So what does that mean for Mexico? Mexico will see, it's already seeing, higher government revenue coming from the rise in oil price. And that means good news for the budget in the short run. And it also means that in the long run, the price of oil is not rising. And therefore, its exports to the US, unless US goes into a bigger contraction than most people anticipate, it's not going to affect its export by much. So overall, this crisis is not going to generate a great deal of impact through the oil price mechanism.